And now, for a man who lives off-grid in the Adelaide Hills with a stable full of horses, Ronald Brackles!
Hello, everyone. So, you've seen my home, haven't you?
It's pretty hard to miss.
Well, I brought it in. Here it is. I built it with my own two hands. Beautiful, isn't it?
That's wonderful, Ronald. And what is the meaning of bringing this Lego house in?
Well, I wanted to show you what a great architect I am for a start. You can see that this is an Australian house because of the spiders in the yard. But...
And because of the shit architecture.
yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Well, what can I say? I'm a lover, not an architect. But this is missing something that every Australian home needs. Solar! So, stick that on the roof, and we're all set to generate clean energy. But, this home is on grid, so some people like to add a battery. There we have one there.
Where'd you get that battery from?
Duracell gave it to me.
That was nice, though.
Yeah, it was. I had to win it in a raffle.
Cash for comment.
No, they said, stick your hand in this box. And foolishly I did, because you shouldn't do that from a company which sells electrical gear. But I did, and I pulled out a raffle ticket and I got this baby. They even let me take it on planes, which is stupid.
So viewers, if you read a glowing review of a Duracell battery in the near future, you know where the corruption lies. That's all I'm going to say.
Alright, fair enough. So, you've got this beautiful home, you can put a battery on it, your battery can store your solar energy during the night, during the day, and for you to use at night.
Perfect.
And yeah, it's perfect, but this is assuming it's connected to the grid. Now, some people want to get a battery, whack it on their home, cut the cord so they're completely off grid.
Living the dream.
Living a, well, yeah, dream, or maybe a nightmare, because you can go off grid with a $10,000 battery system these days.
Yes.
And that's not an El Cheapo battery, that's like one from a good manufacturer. Huawei is selling a battery for 10 kilowatt hours. You can get installed for under $10,000. And they'll give you 5 kilowatts of power. And it would be possible to live off grid like that. But maybe only if you never wanted to be loved again.
Why is that?
Well, one person, you have Mr. Cosplayer, he could live off that. Well, if he was like me, careful with energy, didn't use much, and...
You're hardly a typical Aussie when it comes to energy consumption.
That's true. But if there were two of them, well, let's just say each time he does something stupid, like put a load of washing through the clothes dryer at night and drains the battery, she's going to be pretty cross at him, and vice versa. So my advice is don't try to live off-grid with a $10,000 battery unless A, you're a complete nutter like me, or B, you're looking to get divorced. In real life, a two-person household is going to need at least $30,000 on a battery system alone. And they'll have to be careful with their electricity use. And that could be reasonably comfortable. But if you don't want to be careful with your electricity use, you're going to have to spend more.
If you want to live like most of us do, like a typical profligate Aussie,
Yeah,
you're going to get a rude awakening if you convert your house to off-grid.
exactly. Add a few more people, a couple of children,
Oh, God.
an axe murderer.
Same thing.
Yeah, etc. Then, yeah, you're looking at maybe $60,000 or more to go off grid. And it just, well, if you really value your being off grid, then that's fine. But unless you're in a rural area and you have to pay a huge amount of money anyway just to get connected to the grid, yeah, I don't see it being worthwhile.
But Ronald, at least every month I get an email from, and it's always a man, an angry man, usually very angry, saying, what is this bullshit you're peddling?
Yes.
Telling people it's going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars to go off grid. I went off grid for $5,000, got all the bits off eBay, crocodile clipped them together. I'm living the dream.
Right. Did he look like me? Has he got a big bushy beard?
He was very angry like you.
I am sorry. I'll try to tone it down, be less furious like I normally am. So, yeah, some people, if they're happy doing that, that's fine. Try not to burn your house down. If you're living by yourself, well, at least you'll only one person will die if it catches on fire. Fine, that's fine with me, but you're not going to get married in that situation. You're not going to have house guests coming over and enjoying their stay. Your kids are going to think you're weird. Maybe they'll visit you out of some sense of obligation, but they're not going to enjoy it either.
I say all credit to you, mate.
Yeah.
You're living on 3 or 4 kilowatt hours a day.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's sustainable. You've essentially got a caravan or a cabin system. Good on you.
Yeah.
But, generally the people that read our website have typical Aussie houses that use 16, 20, 25, 30 kilowatt hours a day.
Yes.
And they're thinking about going off grid. That's the advice I'm giving them.
Right. Well, let's just ignore the cost of the battery. Let's say you won it in a pub raffle. So you went to the pub, you bought a raffle ticket. Instead of getting a nice meat tray, or maybe a vegan tray, depending on which pub you go to, you win a huge battery system, fully installed in your home. It makes you completely independent of the grid. You don't have to use any grid power with your solar and battery. So
Stick it to the man.
yeah, well, you could go off grid in that situation, but it doesn't make financial sense even if your battery is completely free. I got a graph here. So you pay maybe $1 a day roughly in supply charges to remain connected to the grid.
Yep.
So if you go off grid, you're saving $365 a year, roughly.
Yep.
Depends on where you are.
Hang on. What do you mean you only save $365 a year going off grid? You don't have any electricity bills. What are you on about?
Okay, this is a house with a huge free battery system, which makes a home independent from the grid. So they don't have to take any grid electricity. They're independent. So we're starting from that premise.
Right, so the extra savings by going off grid is $365 a year.
Yes, that's
Because
right.
you're not paying the approximately $1 a day standing charge to be connected to the grid.
Yeah.
Which many people get very angry about.
Well, I'm upset about it myself. I think it should be either much less or eliminated because it's screwing over pensioners and people on low incomes while rich people in mansions who use huge amounts of electricity benefit. I'm communist, so what do I know? But if you have just a 5-cent solar feed-in tariff and a 6.6 kilowatt solar system, then you're going to save the amount you get in solar feed-in tariff is going to be almost equal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Another problem is, if you're off-grid, you can't use a VPP. Now, if you have a really low opinion of VPPs and think you'll only save $200 a year by joining one, well, you're ahead with this $200 a year VPP and a 5-cent feed-in tariff. If you have a 10-cent feed-in tariff, you're clearly way ahead. 10-cent feed-in tariff and a VPP payment, even better. So yeah, it doesn't make financial sense to go off-grid.
Even if this off-grid system...
Was completely free.
Don't cut that. Don't cut that cord.
Don't cut the cord if you like money. But let's say you've got plenty of money and you say, I value independence. It's not about money for me. It's about feeling independent from the rest of society. In that case, I would say, okay, please love money more and stay on grid for the sake of everyone else. Because this is how much extra emissions you'll avoid each year, over years, as by staying on grid with just a 6.6 kilowatt solar system. So
that's cumulative.
4.5 tons a year. So a car will put out about 3 tons of CO2 emissions per year.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, you can have a huge gas guzzler of a car, and staying on grid will avoid as much emissions as this big car.
So you could use the money you save going off grid to pay the difference between a petrol vehicle and an electric vehicle.
Well, yeah, you stay on grid, get extra money from staying on grid, and you put that money to paying off your electric car.
Yes.
Which you can charge with your solar.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, please, for the sake of everyone, even if you're independently minded, stay on the grid with your solar and battery.
If you have a grid available.
Yeah, if you have a grid available. And because you won't be destroying the environment as much, you'll be more likely to remain independent and not have, your property confiscated by the military junta, which takes over after the agriculture collapses. So, there you have it.
There you have it. So if you've got a grid connection, don't lose it, use it. You'll be helping your wallet, you'll be helping the environment, and you'll make Ronald happy. At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.